Nobody talks about this honestly. We talk about death in funerals and philosophy and religion. We talk about what comes after heaven, reincarnation, nothingness. We talk about grief and legacy and meaning. But we almost never talk about what actually happens to your body in the moments and hours and days after you die, second by second, cell by cell. This is that conversation. At the moment your heart stops, you are not fully dead yet. Death is not a single moment, it is a process, and it begins with the heart. When your heart stops beating, blood stops moving. The organs that depend on oxygen-rich blood begin to register distress within seconds. But your brain, the most oxygen-hungry organ in your body, begins to fail fastest of all. Within 10 seconds of your heart stopping, you lose consciousness. The electrical activity in your brain begins to collapse. The signals that make you, your thoughts, your awareness, your sense of being someone begin to dim. But here is what almost nobody knows. In the seconds immediately after cardiac arrest, some patients show a surge of brain activity. A brief, intense burst of electrical firing across neural networks more powerful in some ways than anything recorded during normal waking life. Researchers do not fully understand it. Some believe it may explain near-death experiences, the tunnel of light, the feeling of peace, the life review. Your brain may be doing something extraordinary in its final seconds, something science is only beginning to measure. Within 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen, brain cells begin to die, not all at once, different regions fail at different rates. The higher functions go first, personality, reasoning, memory, then deeper, more ancient systems. At 10 minutes without circulation, significant brain death has occurred in most people. This is why cardiac arrest survival drops so sharply with every passing minute. Every 60 seconds without CPR reduces survival chances by roughly 10%. The brain does not wait. But the rest of your body, your cells, your organs, your tissues, they do not all die at the same time. This is the part that surprises most people. Your cells continue metabolizing for hours after your heart stops. Not all of them, not everywhere. But cellular processes continue, consuming remaining oxygen, running chemical reactions, producing energy on a diminishing reserve. Hair and nail cells, which need very little to survive, continue dividing for some time. Skin cells remain viable for hours. Some studies have found that certain genes actually activate after death, genes involved in immune response, stress reaction, even embryonic development, switching on as if the body is trying one last time to respond to an emergency. You are not uniformly dead the moment your heart stops. You are dying, a complex biological process that unfolds across time. Now something begins that will not stop. In the absence of circulation, blood follows gravity. It pools in the lowest parts of your body, the parts closest to whatever surface you are lying on. This creates a distinctive discoloration called livor mortis, pale where the blood has drained, purplish red where it has pooled. Within 2 to 4 hours, this pooling becomes fixed. The blood cells begin to break down. The color becomes permanent. Forensic scientists use livor mortis to understand the position of a body at death and whether it was moved afterward. At the same time, a process called Algor mortis begins. Your body starts to cool. In normal conditions, the human body cools at roughly 1 degree Celsius per hour after death. It continues cooling until it matches the temperature of the surrounding environment. If you die in a warm room, this takes longer. In cold conditions, faster. The cooling of a body tells a story. Forensic specialists can estimate time of death from body temperature with surprising accuracy, accounting for clothing, environment, body mass, and dozens of other variables. Your body is releasing information even as it releases life. And then rigor mortis. Between 2 and 6 hours after death, your muscles begin to stiffen, not because of tension, the opposite. In life, muscles relax when calcium ions are actively pumped out of muscle cells. When you die, the pumps stop. Calcium floods in. The muscle proteins lock together. Every muscle in your body, from your jaw to your fingers to your heart, stiffens. Rigor mortis progresses from the smaller muscles to the larger ones. It peaks around 12 hours after death. Then, as the muscle proteins themselves begin to break down, it fades and the body becomes soft again. This cycle of stiffening and softening has been used to estimate time of death for centuries. It is one of the most recognizable features of death and one of the most misunderstood. Now the microscopic world takes over. The bacteria in your gut, the trillions of microorganisms that spent your entire life helping you digest food, regulate your immune system, and produce chemicals your brain needed to function. They do not die with you. They begin to consume you. Without the immune system to keep them contained, gut bacteria spread through the intestinal walls into surrounding tissue. They release enzymes that break down cells. They produce gases, methane, hydrogen sulfide, carbon dioxide that cause the body to bloat and eventually rupture. This process is called putrefaction. It is not pleasant to describe, but it is essential to understand. Because putrefaction is not decay in the negative sense, it is transformation. The complex molecules of your body, proteins, fats, carbohydrates, are being broken down into simpler compounds. Those compounds will re-enter the soil, the water, the air. You are becoming something else. The elements that make up your body, carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, calcium, were not created by you. They were borrowed from the food you ate, from the water you drank, from the air you breathed. Every atom in your body has a history that stretches back billions of years. Stars that exploded, oceans that formed, life that lived and died before you. After you die, those atoms continue their journey into the soil, into plants, into animals that eat the plants, into other humans eventually. The same atoms that are part of you right now may have been part of a dinosaur, a tree, an ancient ocean, and after you, they will be part of something else. You are not disappearing, you are returning. If you are buried, the process unfolds over years and decades. If you are cremated, the carbon in your body is released as carbon dioxide, joining the atmosphere, entering the carbon cycle, eventually becoming part of a plant or a cloud or a breath taken by someone you will never know. Either way, you do not end, you transform. There is a forest in the Pacific Northwest where researchers study what happens to bodies left in natural conditions. What they found changed how scientists think about death. Bodies do not simply decay, they enrich. The soil around a decomposing body becomes extraordinarily fertile, loaded with nutrients, hosting unique communities of insects and fungi and bacteria. Plants grow faster there, animals seek it out. A body does not poison the ground, it feeds it. This is what ancient cultures understood instinctively, that death and life are not opposites, they are the same cycle observed from different points. Now what about consciousness? What happens to your awareness, to the experience of being you? This is where science reaches its honest limit. We know that consciousness is produced by brain activity. We know that as brain activity ceases, consciousness changes and eventually stops, at least in any form we can measure. We know that some people who are resuscitated report experiences during clinical death, light, peace, life review, the feeling of leaving the body. We do not know what these experiences mean. We do not know whether consciousness ends completely when the brain does, or whether something continues in a form we cannot yet detect or measure. The honest answer from neuroscience is, we do not know. What we do know is this. Every person who has ever died was made of atoms that existed before them and will exist after them. Every person who has ever died was part of a biological chain, fed by life that came before and feeding life that comes after. Every person who has ever died left marks on the world, in the people they loved, in the things they built, in the ideas they passed on. None of that ends at the moment of death. The atoms continue, the effects continue. The love, whatever love actually is, whatever it does in the brains and lives of the people who feel it, that continues too. You will die, every cell in your body will eventually stop. The electrical pattern that is your consciousness will cease. And the atoms that were borrowed to make you, they will go on, into the earth, into the air, into other lives you will never know about but will in some small way have helped to make possible. That is not nothing. That is everything.